Hello friends, Clage back with another Punishing Grey Raven guide today, and we are going to be talking about our first elemental effect guide on the channel. So, thanks to the arrival of Selena Pianissimo, and with Alisa Echo finally getting her leap skills, we now have a fully functioning Glaciation team. So we are going to do the Glaciation guide today. I will be combining this into one video and talking about Echo's leap as well. Her leap is very, very basic and isn't really worthy of an entire 10-minute guide by itself, so I'm just going to wrap this into one big guide about the Glaciation team writ large. So let's go over first what you will need to leap Alisa if you've never done leap skills before, if you're a new player, you're getting ready for DMC, all that good stuff. How leaps work is if you go into the skill menu, you will find the leap skills now available for Alisa. Effectively, all of Alisa's leap skills are designed to help enable the Glaciation rotation and make her an active part on the Glaciation team. So normally I would go into the big diatribe about what each leap skill does and how it affects the kit and all that. And in this case, it's just not worth it. Alisa's leap rotation is incredibly straightforward and simple, and all these numbers, values, and all this stuff can just be much easier explained in a simple fashion within the combat demonstration. But all you need to know is that her leaps effectively enable her to do glaciation damage, which is very important. So if you've never leaped a character, you're going to need a specific set of materials. So first and foremost, you are going to need to go into the recycle shop and go to the leap shop. If you go all the way over, you will see the leap wafers are now available for Echo. You are going to need 135 of these character specific wafers to leap all of Alisa's 3 skills. They cost 15 leap chips apiece. The easiest place to pick up leap chips is from the war shop. If you go over in the war shop and go to, I was too far over, there we go. Right here you can buy leaf wafers for 4 war points a piece. To be perfectly honest with you, this is probably the single most important thing to buy out of the war shop these days. We don't really use uniframes for basically anything. Memories are easily purchasable for much cheaper in the consistent shop we get with the event stage, and the memory resonance picks are nice, but we get so much serum and it's so easy to reroll memories that these just aren't really worth it anymore unless you're really struggling to get skills you want on certain characters. So if you have the war points available, that's the best way to get your leap chips. In addition, you are also going to need 630 aura basic units. These can be purchased in the main shop for a pretty expensive cog cost on a daily basis, or you can go straight into the main event shop, go down to the materials, and if you scroll over, you'll see the aura basic unit here as well. So again, 630 of those, and then you're going to need 180 skill points. If you've been playing daily and doing your missions and all that good stuff, you should be overloaded with skill points, so that should be no problem for you. But that will be the requirements to leap all 3 of Alisa's skills to level 18, where they will function properly for the Glaciation team. So, how we are going to build this team is pretty interesting. Some things stay very similar and other things do not. So first and foremost, the placement and team composition is really important. So let's go ahead and get into the team screen here and I'll go over everything. So this is how our Glaciation team is going to look going forward. You're going to have Alisa as the starter on the blue color. She will be leading in and starting off the whole rotation for us. Wancho will be our tank on the red color, and Selena will be our leader for the Glaciation team on yellow. The reason we are having Selena on yellow is this makes it so you don't have to swap Alisa's Awakening Orb to start the stage and do the rotation. So this will just save you some extra menuing if you do it this way, and these two can really be interchanged on either of these colors. Truly doesn't matter. So as for how we build these characters, this is where things get a little different. So in Selena's case, what we are going to do is we are going to swap to a hybrid build, keeping her 4-piece signature set Barana. This does way too much damage and does way too much to her kit, not to keep on. We'll also be keeping 2-piece Kadi, or I guess I should start calling this Kuriko, huh, since they changed it on the global server too. I did not even notice this till after I did the Vera guide, by the way, so good job me. But Kadi and or Kuriko will be the 2-piece, and then we are going to harmonize 2-piece of the Glaciation Kernova set. Is it Kernova? Did I say that right? Klenova, not Kernova. Klenova. This increases ice and glaciation damage. I did some testing messing with this on both Wansha and Selena, trying 2-piece versus 4-piece. I think the most comfortable way to do this particular team in rotation is to settle for the 2-piece. This is also nice because then you don't have to rebuild anything for Selena. You can keep her base 6 memories, just go in and spin the currency to have another Harmony set and harmonize Klenova, and that will set her up to be the damage dealer of the Glaciation team. As for Wansha, Wansha is going to stick with his same tank set, 4-piece Liston, 4-piece Chinjion. This will help shred resistance and go through all of that stuff. The one thing that's going to change drastically is if this is your DPS set for Wansha, you're going to want to create a second set and resonate his class skill on the bottom. Having the tank class skill is going to help increase the overall damage of the Glaciation team. Up top, we are actually going to use his red orb. His red orb is the key component for building Glaciation stacks. It's how we're going to be running the entire rotation through its paces. So resonating red orb up top is definitely recommended for some extra easy damage on that front. And lastly, Alisa is going to do something very unorthodox. We are actually going to swap over to a 4-piece Da Vinci with 4-piece Guinevere. Now, you might be thinking, why Guinevere? She's a physical character. Well, Glaciation damage counts as elemental damage. So in this case, 4-piece Guinevere is actually a massive boost. We don't need her 4-piece set Signa anymore because that only upgrades and boosts the physical aspect of her kit and her teammates' kit. We are not using physical damage at all during the Glaciation rotation. So definitely recommend you build this set. As for resonances, you're going to put her class skill on the bottom for the amplifier buff and 15 attack up top. I did 15 attack and 15 crit. I don't believe Glaciation hits can crit, even though Alisa is a physical unit, but I could not find a concrete answer on that. If any of you know whether or not Glaciation can critical on Alisa with her being a physical character, let me know, because I could not find a hard answer on it, and it's kind of hard to tell by looking at the numbers as you're going on screen. So just something to think about, but in general, 15 attack is probably fine. It's not a big deal. Alisa is not the damage dealer of this group anyway. But those are going to be our builds and our team placement. You can use your normal cubs for Wansha and Selena. For Alisa, just pick one of the ice element cubs that you have available, whether that is Choose, whether that is Isla's Squid Cub, anything that has the ice damage boost, and then you can just use the basic attack skill up here for a boost as well, and that should be what you have on Echo to get just a little bit of damage out. There's no reason to run Linya on her. We don't need to pass off orbs. Glaciation rotation is much shorter, and running out of orbs is just not really going to be a problem for this team at any point during its rotation. So feel free to just slap whatever ice cub you have available and leveled on Echo for this particular team. But that is going to do it for the actual builds and setups for the team. As for your weapon resonances, same stuff you would always do with Wansha. Domain Deconstruction comes first, then Matrix Lightning and Incandescence. Selena, same thing as always. If you do run deadline timing on Selena, you'll want to stick with deadline timing because she is still going to use orbs, although I feel it's completely unnecessary. So focus on Glorious Afterglow, Matrix Lightning, Incandescence for your weapon resonance for her. As for Echo, the only weapon resonance you need to care about on her is Superconductial Axle Ray. If you want to spend some extra resonance and get Glorious Spear, that would be your next highest option, and then Incandescence for her as well. So those are the entire builds. Next, we're going to go into the training mode, talk about how the Glaciation effect works, how we apply it, and how we're going to utilize this team to do maximum Glaciation damage. Okay, so before I start getting into how Alisa's new leap skill works and the overall Glaciation rotation and all that stuff, let's talk about how this elemental effect actually works and how you utilize it to do Glaciation damage regularly on the team. Glaciation is pretty easy to understand. It's a mostly straightforward elemental effect. It's definitely not one of the more complicated ones. Looking your way, Ultima Slash. I know folks have been waiting on the Ultima Slash guide. I promise I'm going to do it. At this point, I'm just going to wait for Virgil to come out. There's no point in doing it till Virgil's out, so we'll get there. For today, let's focus on Glaciation. So, how the Glaciation effects work is each character is capable of building up stacks of Glaciation. This counter can go up to a maximum of 10 stacks. Now, as this team is composed right now with our current Glaciation lineup, really only one character is remotely good at creating the Glaciation effect stacks, and that is Wancha. Wancha's role on this team, in addition to being the tank and shredding resistance just like he would on the ice team, is going to be to build up these stacks of Glaciation so that they can be converted into the congelation buff. And I'll get to that in a moment. But the idea is Wancha's going to build up all the Glaciation stacks. He's going to pass off to Selena, who is going to do the burst damage on this team as the attacker, and do it within the window where all the Glaciation buffs are the most active so that we're getting the most Glaciation damage possible. Echo is there to buff the team, and she fills in a little bit of downtime during the rotation between Selena and Wancha, and she will add a little bit of her own Glaciation damage on top, but just like Selena, she's not going to be very good at building the stack. She is just there to kind of fill some downtime and give buffs to both our teammates. Now, Echo and Selena are capable of building this stack. Every character who has the Glaciation effect can build Glaciation. The difference is that to do it with Selena and Echo, you have to do things that are very, very slow and very inefficient. Selena, for example, can build it by tapping basic attack in her various modes, and we don't want to do that. That's not fast nor efficient. So the general rule of thumb is Wancha will build the stacks, create the Glaciation debuff, Selena cashes out the damage, Echo supports the team. So the reason Wancha is the key member in building up the Glaciation buff is that his normal rotation will just do it for you with one minor tweak. And you're going to find that a lot of the elemental effects come with very minor tweaks to rotations. Not many characters have to completely overhaul their rotation to use their elemental effect, and that's pretty true on this team. So, the easiest way to build up the stacks with Wancha is to go into his quick draw stance, the R1 on my screen, whatever your red orb is assigned to when Wancha is on your team. But when we go into the stance, instead of holding the red orb button, which is what you do to go into his ice rotation, you're going to hold dodge to enter the stance in this case instead of doing R1. This is really important because that's the only way the Glaciation effects are going to activate. You have to get used to holding dodge to going into stance. So let me build up enough stance to get going here. So you see his 3 pings build up a little bit of Glaciation, but we're not even at 1 stack yet. So not a very efficient way to do it. But if we go ahead and I hold dodge, go into the stance, and start doing the revolver shots, you can see in 1 6-shot clip, we've already got all 10 stacks of Glaciation. We're good. We're golden. So, Wancha is incredibly, incredibly good at building up the Glaciation stacks. Now, what do we do once we've got the Glaciation stacks? So once you've built up to 10, this is as high as it gets. There is no circumventing the amount of stacks you can build. There's no passive skill at a higher rank or anything. You can only ever have 10 Glaciation stacks max. What happens now is the various characters have ways of converting these stacks into a debuff called Congelation. What's going to happen when that debuff happens is it gets a set timer put on it. The timer lasts for 1 second for every stack of Glaciation you have. So the maximum this Congelation debuff can ever last is 10 seconds long. There is a minor caveat to that. Echo is actually capable of increasing the duration of the Congelation debuff. However, the way the rotation works, there's just no reason to use it, and it would be much more inefficient and damage loss overall to have Echo focusing on trying to keep the Congelation buff active for a little while longer, instead of just utilizing the fact that, look, you get 10 seconds, that's all the time Selena's going to need to come on and do the burst damage, so we just use that and don't worry about extending it. So how you activate this buff is we're going to go ahead and we'll do Wancha's ultimate. Once I do that, you're going to see this icon change to the Congelation, and you're going to see it turns completely blue, and the blue slowly starts emptying down throughout the icon. That's your sign of how much time you have with the Congelation debuff. While Congelation is active, there's going to be a mechanic called Ice Spikes. Basically what happens is Ice Spikes just stick on the enemies on the field while the congelation buff is active, and what they do is massively increase all glaciation damage anytime they are active. You can think of the congelation debuff as the ice spike buff for our damage. They're basically one and the same, and they are representing the same aspect of the whole elemental effect that is glaciation. So if I go ahead and ult with Wansha, we'll see now we have the congelation debuff, and you'll see ice spikes here sitting around the character doing constant ice damage. You basically have this entire window to switch over to Selena and have her get the maximum amount of damage possible. So Selena is not going to have to do anything different if the congelation buff is active. So if you have your timer going and that buff is active, all the damage Selena would do during her normal rotation now just becomes glaciation damage. You don't have to do anything special. You don't have to tap or hold an ultimate a specific way. You just do the same thing you would do with Selena if you were running the physical rotation. It's automatically going to convert the damage into glaciation for you. So that gives you the general idea of how we're going to actually make this team work and make it function. Now, the next thing we need to talk about real quick is Echo's new leap. So in the past, doing Echo's physical rotation, when she would kill downtime on the physical team, we would have to hold basic attack, spam Cypher Orbs to get into this mode, and then start, doing our 3 pings and cause the mark debuff, all this stuff. You've done this for a while now. You know how Echo works. Luckily, her glaciation rotation is brain dead easy, and in addition, it's actually going to be beneficial for those times when you need her to fill downtime even on non-glaciation teams when she's buffing the physical team, because she now gets to her ultimate and gets to time stop incredibly fast, like ludicrously fast compared to how she used to. So she isn't going to do a lot of damage. Echo's job is not to come in here and just spam glaciation damage. Her job is to come in, fill downtime, and do it with a lot of time stop to basically just tack on some extra damage without losing too much in the tank from our main damage dealers with Selena and our main glaciation stacker with Wansha. So how we're going to do the glaciation rotation for Alisa is really straightforward. So instead of holding basic attack, being all the Cypher Orbs, instead we are just going to hold dodge. You hold dodge, we go into this mode, and now if you spam dodge, you will see Echo just keeps firing these rounds of ice spikes over and over and over again. All you need to do after you have done the first dodge is do 2 more dodges. You will build up enough to, 1, do the mark. So if we go hold dodge, and I do a couple things here, and then I hold basic, you'll see she gets her mark shot now. That'll happen after 3 dodges. And with that, by the time you let that mark rip, you're going to have your ultimate up. So how this works in practice is we're going to bring Echo in. She comes in for the downtime. We're going to hold dodge. We're going to spam 2 more dodges. Hold basic. Ult. That's it. That's the rotation. And you'll have enough downtime. Do it again. 3 more dodges. Hold basic. Ult. That's it. That's the whole story. So Echo's portion of the glaciation rotation is incredibly simple. This will take you no time to pick up whatsoever. It's very, very easy and very straightforward. Just keep in mind, you're always going to do 3 dodges, because the first set of dodges is going to activate the actual skill itself. We do 3 dodges, ult. There'll be enough time left on the stasis going on here to do 3 more dodges, build up the gauge all the way again, do the second mark shot, and then ult again. So you will effectively do this exact set of rotations with Alisa every time she comes on the field, and that will be how you fill in the downtime between Selena and Wansha. That pretty much covers how glaciation works. That's the whole shindig. You don't have to worry about building stacks with anyone but Wansha. Selena's job is to cash it all out. Echo comes in, fills the downtime, does her new rotation. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So, with all of that explained, let's go ahead and get into the actual rotation. I will break it down for how it works and how we're going to go through it, put some annotations up just like I would with a character guide, and we'll go from there. Alright, so let's talk about the actual glaciation rotation. I'll go through, show you how we get the most damage out of the debuff, explain why we're doing what we're doing for each character, and hopefully this will kind of bring everything together for how to actually play the team and maximize your glaciation warzone runs. So, we are going to start with Alisa, just as mentioned in the team building process. The reason I have Wancha on red and Selena on yellow is this makes it so we don't have to change Alisa's Awakening Orb. That's just a nice benefit, quality of life. You're not going in and swapping for which team you have her on and having to do different things for the physical and glaciation team. If you set the team up this way, you just get to keep it and save yourself some menuing. That's always nice. So, how this is going to work, just like you would start a physical rotation, Echo is going to come in, use her yellow orb to launch herself at the enemy, get us close, because we always prefer being closer to enemies in Warzone than not, so we don't end up off in Narnia and having to chase enemies down or lose a straggler somewhere. If there's more than one enemy on the screen, that's never fun. So we'll go ahead, we'll let Echo come in. She uses the yellow orb. That's going to bring in Wancha once we get close. Using the yellow orb will proc Selena's QTE. Go ahead and use it. It's just a free bit of QTE damage. No reason not to. And then Wancha comes in and starts his part of the rotation. Now, again, Wancha's rotation is going to look very, very similar to his Ice Team rotation. The key thing to remember is, again, once we start holding the button to go into stance, we don't want to actually hold the red orb. You have to hold dodge. That's how we get the Glaciation procs. So just like you would normally do with Wancha, once he comes in, you're going to spend 1 3-ping, so that gets you to the full meter to be able to go into the quick draw stance. So from there, we go into the quick draw, and we go ahead and start emptying both sets of 6 bullets. Make sure you catch the gun as you're doing this, just like you would for the Ice Team. From there, we do his first ult. That gets the congelation buff active, which means now it is time to bring Selena in and get the maximum amount of damage we possibly can for her window while the ice spikes are active. Now, for Selena's rotations, I'm not going to annotate those individually because you can effectively take whatever rotation you've been doing for the physical team that you learned from my guide or anyone else's guide for that matter, and you can apply that to the Glaciation team, and it's going to work pretty much entirely fine. So whatever you've been doing, if you're at double S3 or triple S and above, you can basically copy paste that rotation over to this and it'll be mostly effective. There are minor optimizations we can do, and I'll talk about those when we get to Selena, but just know that I'm not going to put one rotation for Selena on this because it's going to differ based on your rank investment. But now that Wancha's got the congelation buff active, we don't need to go ahead and do his second ultimate. We want Selena on the field right here, right now to get started. So Selena comes in. You're going to get into flow state ASAP, just like you would for a normal physical rotation. So in my case, since I'm triple S, I do a 3-ping, hold basic. That gets enough for ultimate, and I go into ultimate. If you're below triple S, you're going to do 3-ping, hold basic, 3-ping to get into flow state. Once we are in flow state, same rotation you would do for your rank. Whatever you've been doing for double S3, or triple S, basically start with that here. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and burn the blue orb. Does plenty of damage. Then I'm going to go into the hold dodge, bring on the clones. This is where I do a minor difference. So normally what I would do is use the orbs before doing the hold dodge and forsake the double damage on the concert orbs. We don't need to do that here. I actually don't mind letting the float animation play out for Selena after she does hold dodge because we still have some congelation left. We still got a little bit time to finish this off before we pop our ultimate. Plus, we want to get to the full flower ultimate, so I need to do that by pinging some more orbs. Again, depending on what rank your Selena is at, there are a lot of ways to do this. Ideally, what you're going to do is whatever you've been doing prior. Some combination of getting into flow state, using the hold dodge for the shadow clones, possibly using the blue orb if that fits within your rotation, and then using concert orbs to get yourself to the flower ultimate. So I'm going to let her float down. I'll have enough time to ping 3 concert orbs. They all get double damage because of the buff from doing hold dodge and flow state. And then that gets us to our flower ultimate. We're going to do the flower ultimate, and then we're going to swap off. Again, Selena is only doing a single ult rotation every time on the field. So the flower rotation goes, and now we bring Echo on. Echo is just as simple as I showed you in the combat demonstration. So she's going to come in, you immediately hold dodge to trigger the stasis in the background, and then you spam 2 more dodges, hold basic, fire the mark shot, do your first ult. Wancha's not quite back up yet, so we're going to do it again. Dodge, 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 hold basic, ult again. Echo's done her job. She's filled the downtime, and now it is Wancha's turn to come back in and build up Glaciation. Now, Wancha's second rotation is by far the trickiest and most difficult part of this rotation. And if anything is going to trip you up, it will be this part for a couple reasons. One, since we're splitting Wancha into 2 separate rotations instead of doing the fire 12 shots, do the first ult, then get into the stance a second time and do the air dash attacks, we're breaking that up into separate pieces now. This means his orbs aren't going to be organized and we're not coming in with Matrix active. So, when you bring Wancha in for rotation 2, find your 3-ping, there'll be one somewhere, and do that. For my case, it's these 3 yellow orbs right here. So I do those to let the second set of the meter get full so we can go into the stance. And again, you have to go into the stance by holding dodge. Every time you go into stance with Wancha, start practicing training yourself. Hold dodge. Don't hold the red orb. Now, the second rotation is going to be a lot different. How this is going to work is we're going to go ahead and go into the shots again, but we're only going to do 1 round of 6 shots. There's a couple reasons for this. One, we're going to do this in Ultimate, but there's a couple things you need to pay very special attention to make this work. One, make sure you catch the gun. If you Ultimate before Wancha catches the gun and you hear that little click sound, your rotation's bricked. You're not going to be able to do the second half of this. If you do this by mistake, if you see yourself Ultimate and you didn't catch the gun, from there, just bring Selena on the field as soon as you possibly can and get the most out of the debuff. Ideally, you're not going to make that mistake. So we fire 6 shots, catch the gun, and we go into the first ult. Now, instead of swapping off immediately because Selena's not quite back online yet, what we're going to do instead is use Wancha to use part of the congelation buff, and then we'll pass off to Selena because Selena's rotation is going to be quicker on the second bring in because we can't do a flower rotation this time. She still is going to have the noise debuff. That means she can't build up to the full flower ultimate. So instead, we're going to do a faster rotation for the second part, just like we would if we were doing a double ult rotation back to back for the physical team. But before we get to Selena, now after we do this first ult, we need to go ahead, do 2 more 3-pings to build up the meter to bring stance back online for Wancha. And from there, we're going to immediately go into stance by holding dodge. Again, make sure you're always holding dodge. And now we're going to do the hold basic attack to start the air dash attacks. So he goes into the flurry. If you've done this correctly, if you fired the 6 shots, caught the gun, and then go into the flurry, as soon as you do 1 set of the air dashes, the ultimate's going to come online. You see right there, if I back this up a little bit, right as that 30 hits the mark, the ultimate's online. So you want to ult the very second you see that going on. So as soon as this is getting up towards 30, just start mashing ult. You can absolutely mash on it. You won't brick the rotation by doing that because we want to get this ultimate done as quick as possible because this is not going to reset the congelation buff. So we do Wancha's full ultimate, and now we swap in Selena, but we don't have a full set of congelation this time. We've already lost about 3-4 seconds on the timer. That is okay, because again, we're going to go ahead and do a shorter rotation, which will allow us to clear the last set of the noise debuff, and we'll be able to do the flower next time. So Selena comes in, we immediately get into flow state. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do hold dodge, land, spam 3 concert orbs. That gets ultimate online, and you will see if we go back here a little bit. Come on, media player. You'll see we have just enough congelation left to fire off the ultimate, get the time stop, and make sure the ultimate gets actual glaciation damage. So Selena goes into her regular ult, plays the Fortissimo. From here, Echo comes back up, does her exact rotation again. So hold dodge, 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 basic, ultimate. 3 more dodges, hold basic. I think I did a 4th dodge in there by accident during spamming, so ignore that. But then we do that, and Wancha is back in. I had a little bit longer downtime, you might have noticed. So if you see on this ultimate, Wancha's not quite back yet. So I just spam a couple dodges for the glaciation damage, because why not? Nothing else to do at that point. And then Wancha comes back in, and now we are back to step 1. So we are now effectively back at the very beginning of the rotation. Wancha comes in, and he goes into the stance to do 12 shots, do the first ult. And then Selena is going to come back, and she will be set up to do a flower ultimate, because now our noise debuff is cleared. That is the entire glaciation rotation from start to finish. this is tricky. I'm not going to lie to you. This is going to take practice, mostly on Wancha's part. Echo, super easy. Selena, if you've been playing Selena, you already know how to get the most out of her. You're just doing it a little bit quicker and only doing one ult, so we maximize the congelation buff. In Wancha's case, the biggest tripping point for this is because his stance is so finicky for no reason. It's really easy to try and go into the stance and not get anything because you tapped the button too early, or you didn't hold the button long enough, or whatever. If you've played Wancha for any amount of time, I know you've experienced this. He has this weird amount of lag before he actually goes into his either the rapid fire with the revolver, or when he goes into the air dash by holding basic. There's a weird lag before that really takes off. Kind of similar to how sometimes Lamia's tidal wave orb takes a while to actually switch to its next level, even if you've already spammed like 6 regular orbs. Wancha has that same problem. So the best advice I can give you with Wancha to make sure you don't accidentally mess up the stance with him is just take a tiny little bit of extra time to make sure Wancha has gone to the point where his hand goes down to the gun, like where he lowers his hand near his waist and is ready to draw. That's kind of my visual cue for getting it more consistently. The only time this is a real problem is that second Wancha set of rotations where we have to do the 6 shots, catch the gun. The congelation buff becomes active with the first ultimate, but we need to fit in his second ultimate before bringing Selena on the field, so we're not wasting all that uptime of the congelation buff since Selena's swap in won't be off cooldown yet. But that is the entire Glaciation rotation. It's long and it is a little tricky because we're effectively splitting up multiple characters who would normally do double ult rotations into single ult rotations split up multiple times over. But let's go ahead and go through the entire thing from start to finish. And I will annotate and we'll go from there. Let me get to the point where this is out of the way. All right, perfect starting point. So, Glaciation rotation start to finish. Alisa Awakening Orb, Wancha comes in, 3 ping. 12 red shots. Ultimate 1. Swap to Selena. 3 ping basic, 3 ping if you need it. Go into flow state. Perform your flow state rotation relative to whatever your evolution rank is at for Selena. Make sure you build up the flower buff. Let the flower ultimate rip. Echo comes in. Hold dodge. Dodge twice. Hold basic. Ultimate. Land from the ultimate. Dodge 3 times, hold basic, ultimate again. Wancha comes in for rotation 2. 3 ping, hold dodge, 6 shots, catch the gun, ultimate 1. Matrix ping, 3 ping, hold dodge, go into the air dash attack, ultimate immediately when it comes up. Swap to Selena. Selena gets in flow state. Use your flow state rotation without flower ultimate. Make sure your ultimate goes off before the congelation buff runs out. Ultimate finishes. Echo comes in. Hold dodge. Dodge 2 times. Hold basic. Ultimate. Land from the ultimate. Dodge 3 times. Hold basic. Ultimate. Spam a dodge if Wancha isn't off cooldown yet, just for some extra damage. Wancha comes back in. We are now at the beginning of the rotation. Same thing as before. Go into the stance. Empty 12 shots. Go back to Selena. Do the flower ultimate. There you go. That's the entire Glaciation rotation for the team. It will take some practice, especially the Wancha parts. The rest of it, you'll have it in 5 minutes. It's very free for Selena and Echo. Those parts are mad easy, thankfully. But that is how the entire Glaciation team works. So that pretty much covers it. I'm not going to go back in and do a big long outro. This is already way too long of a guide for just an elemental effect, but I know people have been asking for these and I've been wanting to do them. I just haven't had enough time and I haven't been able to sit down and properly teach myself these rotations like I've wanted to. So now with Echo's Leap, I figured, you know what? This is the best time to do this. Let's get one of these knocked out, and I will continue working on the elemental effect guides when I get some time here and there. I have 4 weeks exactly before I am back from Evo and done with Evo Crunch. So we're almost there. 4 more weeks. which is about the same time Devil May Cry comes out. So I don't know. Pour one out for me. Say a prayer. Whatever you've got that's going to make these next 4 weeks not grind me to dust, I'll take it. Like, you got a magic wishing lamp, I'll buy it for $1. All right. Yeah, I am very tired. Can you tell? Anyway, hopefully this plays out the Glaciation team for you. Now, when Glaciation pops in Warzone, you can take the team in, try and lay down a score there. It gives you another route for the entropic area that we get every week. So try this out, practice it. It's pretty straightforward. Again, the big trip up is going to be that second rotation with Wancha. It's going to be very easy to make a minor mistake there. If you're a little slow on the draw, you might not have enough congelation debuff for Selena to come in and ultimate. So just practice. Once you start getting a feel for it, it's very rhythmic and it's very easy to keep up with. You just got to be on point for Wancha's stance stuff. That's the only real difficult part of this whole thing. But that is one of a lot of elemental effects covered, but it's one more than we had on the channel, and I will take that. So thank you again for all your patience. Thank you for the feedback and comments and stuff on all the guides and videos. Those really help me out, and I'm trying to answer every single question I can. Again, I'm kind of swamped, so I apologize if I miss your question or miss a comment or something. I really do try to respond to all of those as much as I can. So if I missed you, don't take it personally. I probably just am buried under a pile of emails at the moment. So that's going to do it for this one. As always, if you've got questions, if you want some input on what you should do with your Selena rotation based on your rank, feel free to ask that down in the comments. I'm happy to try and help you out there. And if you want to do all the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, again, always appreciate it. It's never necessary. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. So that's going to do it. I'm going to get out of your hair. Thank you for watching the Glaciation Guide. Y'all take care. Be good to each other. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.